Hey everyone, my name is Tracy Fixon from The Revived Mom, and I am really happy to share our Mindful Monday with you. I know several of you registered for the recording, so that will be coming out to you after we chat a little bit today. So, just before we get started, I want to tell you a little about who I am and who I'm not. So, my name is Tracy, and I am the founder of The Revived Mom, where I help women and moms empower themselves to make holistic, healthy choices from the inside out. So, I care about your well being, your mind, your heart, your body, and spirit. So, I really try to help others make choices that improve their whole lifestyle, not just one area of life. I'm a certified Holy Yoga instructor. I'm also a wellness consultant for Shackley Corporation, and I use all of that into what I share. I am not a physician. I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse or anything like that. So please make sure that you consult your doctor before starting anything or trying anything new. I'm simply here to just share the things that I've learned about myself and about my body, and maybe it resonates with you, maybe it connects with something in your heart, in your body, in you. So please make sure that we note that this is not professional advice, and this is totally my testimony shared with you. So today's conversation is about chronic holding patterns, and it's funny because I'm sitting here horribly twisted up as I share with you. But we all have chronic holding patterns in our bodies. So, from how we stand, how our feet touch the floor, to how we position our hips, how we bend our knees, how we cross our arms, how we sit in a chair. We all have different patterns in our bodies that we hold, and over time, maybe even develop a series of pain points in these certain positions. So today's conversation is really just to bring some awareness to these points. So I've learned a few things in my yoga instructor training and anatomy classes and things like that that I have just found incredibly fascinating. And I just can't help but share it. So I always feel like if you have something good that can improve someone's life, why not share it with others? So, we all are uniquely created. So, our holding patterns are going to be unique to us. So, we might have some similar things, but not everyone is going to be 100% the same because we are not all created the same. We're all created differently. So, we're just going to walk through five different areas. And I'm just hoping that this brings you some mindfulness and awareness to your body. And I'm going to hopefully give you some tips to not only become aware to these points, but to just really think about how you can address pain in these situations or in these spots in your body. And what are some things that you could do differently to give yourself some relief? So the first one, and again, it was funny if you could have seen it, was crossing your legs in a chair. So I don't know about you, but I always cross them a certain way. It's always the same points of contact that are coming into play. And really, when I'm really getting into work, like I'll sit here with my legs crossed and then I get really hunched over and I'm just in the zone. And all of a sudden I'll become aware of how my body is positioned and I am so pretzeled and twisted up and I'm hunched over and I'm taking shallow breaths that it takes that like, whoa, let's just straighten out. So if you are able, as much as possible, to just have your both feet on the floor when you're sitting in a chair. So try to uncross those legs, try to undo those points of contact and pressure that you're putting on the joints as you cross them, and simply resting them together, sitting really nicely, but having both feet on the floor and just creating that nice points of contact that are nice and gentle to your joints, especially your knee joints as you push on them when you're sitting in the chair. But also, when you're crossing your legs in the chair, because it's affecting your knees, it's going to zigzag up to your hips. And then, depending on how you're sitting or what you're doing, it's going to come into your shoulders, which is going to play a huge impact on your neck and shoulder pain as well. So, simply making that change could start alleviating some pressure in your entire body. So, the first one, again, is just crossing your legs, uncrossing them, having both feet on the floor, just putting your feet together really nicely, you might notice some different feelings in your joints. The second one is if you have ever had a child or even a dog, or you've held a kid in any respect, and I'm going to actually stand up for this one. Odds are you've had a baby on your hip while your dominant hand is cooking and scrubbing and doing this and doing that, and you're using that hip as a shelf. And some of us, if you are a mom, and we've been blessed with that calling, that you have put a lot of pressure on one side of your body. And that is something that compounds over time because it's a position that you probably weren't doing prior to having children or even holding a dog. Like if you have a little dog, I just had a coffee with someone this morning and we were both like talking about holding our little dogs because our kids are older, so we hold little dogs. So depending on that, it's compression into this hip space over time. And what that's doing is because of the layers of muscle here, you have to, do some stretches to stretch it out, but be patient with the process of undoing all of that chronic holding pattern in that hip area. I've even caught myself, I'll stand when I stand just talking with someone, I might even just stand like this, like I just kind of cross my leg over and stand like this. How are you standing at the grocery store? You're waiting in line at the checkout, you're hunched over your cart, you cross your legs over, you pop your phone out, and just paying attention to, do you have both feet just planted on the floor? And just softening some of those things in your body. What are some things you can do to just soften your body down in that way? So while we're talking about hip pain, one thing that I learned from my yoga instructor, my teacher, was that hip pain can sometimes be associated with grief and the emotion of grief that is trying to pass through your body. So you're storing in emotions, and sometimes that bottling up of emotions can manifest itself in pain. And hips specifically can be associated with grief. And when I think about this past year, I think about how we've all lost something. We've lost a routine, we've lost familiarity, we've lost your train of thought. um we've probably lost something. Now we've probably gained a lot in our lives too, like maybe we've gained new comforts, or we've gained new boundaries, or we've gained new rhythms and habits that we actually thought were going to be bad but we end up enjoying. But if you look back at the past year, loss does not always have to be associated with death, like physical death, like the loss of losing someone. It can be the loss of something that is real and active and alive. It could even be loss of friendship. So, loss of connection, loss of relationship, all of those things that the last year brought to us, there could be loss tied to that results in a grieving process, which can result in aches and pains in the body because those emotions are being trapped in and stored. Because most of us don't let those things flow. We typically bottle it up, buckle it down, and just pack it in there. And when we do that, it tends to manifest itself in different ways of pain. So think about your life, and maybe you haven't experienced a loss, like you haven't lost someone or something, but in the past year, like I said, we've all lost something, and it might be something that is still um, alive and tangible, but we can no longer access it. So we have to grieve through that change, and that's okay. So that is just tying into that hip pain. The next thing, number 4, is our shoulders. rounding in. And this can mean a lot of different things. So our shoulders don't have bone to bone, a lot of bone to bone connection keeping them in place. They're only connected by tiny little bones in the front here, but most of this is all musculature. This is all muscles that are keeping our shoulders in place. And when we think about our posture and our shoulders, it's really about activating our back muscles right here. So when our shoulders are rounding, are we activating this part of our body right here? So it's becoming mindful of these back muscles and maybe taking some time to strengthen those back muscles. So let's talk about our shoulders a little bit more. What are things that we do in our everyday that cause our shoulders to hunch forward? Computer work, phone scrolling, even the way you maybe sleep at night. I caught myself waking up this morning, like on my side, completely shoulders in. And I've had a lot of shoulder pain this past year. I've really been trying to be mindful about sleeping on my back, getting my shoulders to touch the bed behind me, not just like cuddling in, but being mindful even about how you're sleeping. Because say you sleep 6 hours a night, 6 to 8, and that's 6 to 8 more hours of pressure on your shoulders in that way. So it takes muscle effort to get those shoulders back and down. And I think most everyone has shoulders that round in a little bit. Other reasons that our shoulders might round in is it's a protective position. So what are we protecting if we're kind of rounding in? We're protecting our hearts and we're protecting our voices. So if we have any issues with being vulnerable emotionally in our hearts, we might round our shoulders in a little bit more. If we have issues communicating how we're feeling, we might have that posture because we're trying to protect our voice and our communication, and we're just trying to guard what we're able. Because when they are backing down, this can feel a little vulnerable. This can feel open and exposed. So it just comes down to being mindful. What are some of these things that are causing it? Is it weak back muscles? Is it how you sleep? Is it the positions you sit all day? Or is it some emotional tie of, well, I don't want to say that, or I don't want to get hurt again? And is it a protective mode that we put ourselves into over and over again? So, with that also comes anxiety. And shoulder pain is often associated with anxiety. And I just think of all my mom friends, all my mom friends who complain about stress and tension right in your necks. And I mean, you can see people doing this, right? You have the weight of your family riding on your shoulders, right? And you are the one coordinating who gets where and what, and it's your fault if the water bottle gets left behind, and all of these different things that get compounded in us. And what we do is we just take that weight of that stress of what we do, and it compounds. Again, it's compounding into these muscles. Now we have several layers of muscles in our neck and our shoulders that um, are what control our neck and our shoulders. So even going and getting a massage, which I highly recommend on a routine. My chiropractor suggested going twice, every 2 weeks, which I haven't gotten there. I try to go every 6, but I do that because I need relief of that tension. It needs to get out somehow. But because there's so many layers here, it takes more than one massage every Mother's Day to get some of that escape. Sometimes we need that help. The other thing that happens when we are rounded in and we have the weight and the stress and the pressure is that we're not breathing as deep as possible. So when you're hunched over, your breath is typically pretty shallow and it just stays kind of right here. When you're back and up and you mindfully and intentionally breathe deeply, and fill up your lung space and your entire front body. When you're filling all of that up, then all of a sudden you're breathing deeper and that tension is actually moving through your body. But when it stays shallow, it's again just compounding on top. So opening it up, so activating the back muscles and then intentionally breathing deeper. Now, here's a fun fact about breath and oxygen. Most of our energy is supposed to come from oxygen. But because we don't breathe as deep as we're designed to, and we breathe these short, shallow breaths, stressful breaths, no wonder we're tired. No wonder we're exhausted. Because just think by 2 o'clock, you're tired because all morning you've just been in this short, reactive, stressful, compounding breathing versus opening up and breathing. Now, all of this, and this is where it comes into mindfulness, is all of this is just being aware of where in your body you're experiencing some pain. So I just shared these things with you as things that really made me open my eyes, and maybe there's something that connects with you. What I don't want is you to feel like, "Oh, I need to add another thing to my plate." I want this to be something where it's like, today I remembered 2 times to take deeper breaths. The next day, maybe you didn't remember at all, and that's okay. This is just information and knowledge to help empower and equip you if you choose to be mindful and implement it. None of this should be too difficult to add in. Even when you're standing and cooking dinner, can you open up and take deeper breaths and open up that chest space and open up that back space? Um, the last thing I just want to add is that in all of these positions, and as you become mindful and aware of different pains and chronic things in your body, and as you do stretches or breathing or just being mindful and prayerful about these things, emotions may come up. And when emotions come up, tears may fall. And I would just encourage you to let that flow through you. So, no matter where you're at, however it is, and I know it's uncomfortable because I hate it too, but just allowing some of that emotion to flow through you, because if it stays in, is it just going to compound and add to the pain that's already there? So, as you're listening, just get comfortable wherever you're at. Untwist yourself, stretch out your neck, and don't be afraid to just simply sit in a chair and rotate your neck back and forth, kind of pulling down with one side, stretching it out, rolling the chin across the chest, just taking some nice deep breaths. And again, just adding some of that in your day to help open up your body and hopefully relieve some pain and discomfort. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Mindful Monday chat. I hope to see you again real soon. As always, you can find me on Instagram at The Revived Mom. Take care.